Malcolm-Jamal Warner, a favorite actor from the 80s hit The Cosby Show, has died.
I don't believe that man drowned. I don't. Too suspicious. They had too many different stories. Him and his daughter was out there swimming.
I am tired of running for shade. And aren't you tired of being hustled and played?
So, Eddie Griffin is back in the headlines once again, and this time it's over the shocking death of his former co-star, Malcolm-Jamal Warner, a loss that recently rocked the industry.
Stunning death of actor Malcolm-Jamal Warner, who rose to fame. You know that face. He still looks exactly like Theo Huxtable.
But then, a new clip has surfaced showing Eddie sharing some bold and wild takes about it. And while some fans are brushing it off as just another conspiracy theory, others are starting to wonder if there might be something more sinister behind it. Let's break it down. As many folks already know, Eddie Griffin has a long-standing reputation for diving headfirst into conspiracy theories, both in his stand-up routines and outside of them. He's never been one to shy away from controversial takes, and recently he brought that same energy when talking about the unexpected death of his former Malcolm and Eddie co-star, Malcolm-Jamal Warner. In a clip that's been making the rounds online, Griffin takes the stage during one of his stand-up shows and shares his thoughts on Warner's passing. He flat out says he doesn't believe the official story that Warner drowned.
I don't believe that man drowned. I don't.
According to Griffin, the whole situation just seems too suspicious. He points to inconsistencies in the media coverage, claiming there were way too many conflicting reports flying around. He even raises questions about the whereabouts of Warner's wife during the incident and finds it odd that a doctor just so happened to be on the beach at the exact time of Warner's reported death.
In the morning, how come the mama wasn't there? Number two, just so happens to be a doctor on the beach.
But what really threw Griffin off, and what he openly admits, is that he couldn't figure out why anyone would want to harm Malcolm in the first place. In his words, Warner was the nicest person on earth. And in true Eddie Griffin fashion, he wrapped it up with a dark but humorous twist, saying, "They tried to kill me a bunch of times. You can't go anywhere until God say it's time for you to go." Now, what makes Griffin's comments even more intriguing is the complex relationship the two actually had behind the scenes. While most fans remember Malcolm and Eddie as a lighthearted sitcom where the two leads played best friends, the reality off camera was a lot less warm and fuzzy.
One of the dope things is me and Eddie really did not get along.
In real life?
In real life.
According to Malcolm-Jamal Warner himself, the two didn't exactly see eye to eye during their time working together. They weren't enemies, but they certainly weren't close either. Warner once admitted that he and Griffin clashed often, mainly because they came from very different life experiences and had different views on comedy, culture, and the industry as a whole.
Why y'all didn't get along?
Just different schools of life.
Yeah.
You know, different schools of life. And we were,
Despite their differences, though, Warner said they still managed to respect each other professionally and kept things working on set. But he was honest about the fact that there were moments when he questioned whether Eddie was selling out by being part of the show. Warner confessed that, yes, at times he did feel that way. However, he made it clear that he never saw himself that way. He believed he was trying to bring change from within, even if it wasn't easy. He also opened up about how tough that period was for him. Coming off The Cosby Show, a groundbreaking series that reshaped how Black families were portrayed on television, Malcolm and Eddie felt like a huge departure. Warner admitted that he used to speak negatively about the show because, deep down, he was unhappy. He struggled with the fact that the sitcom leaned more into stereotypes and slapstick than the socially conscious tone he had been used to. In fact, Malcolm-Jamal Warner hasn't been quiet over the years about his experience on Malcolm and Eddie, especially when it comes to the behind-the-scenes drama and the shady dealings that plagued the show. In multiple interviews, he's been pretty candid about the rocky dynamic he had with Eddie Griffin and the challenges they both faced while trying to make the sitcom work. While they didn't exactly get along off camera, Malcolm once shared that they had a mutual understanding. They needed to tough it out and try to get the show to that golden number of 100 episodes, the magic mark for syndication. Hitting that milestone would have meant serious money and long-term success.
We both understood is we get to 100 episodes, we're going to have a sweet syndication deal.
But unfortunately, they never made it. The network pulled the plug at 88 episodes, just 12 shy of their goal. According to Malcolm, execs were basically done with both of them by that point. He says they were fed up with him constantly clashing with the writers, and they were equally tired of Eddie's unpredictable behavior. The whole thing had become, in his words, a miserable experience.
They were tired of me fighting with the writers about their writing, and then they were tired of Eddie's shenanigans. It was a miserable experience. I have my version, Eddie has his version.
And it's not just Malcolm who felt that way. Both he and Eddie Griffin have spoken out over the years about their frustration with the writing process on the show. A big part of the problem is that most of the writers were white, and according to the actors, didn't really understand what it meant to be a black man in America, let alone how to write about it authentically. Because of that, Malcolm and Eddie often found themselves rewriting huge chunks of the script just to make the dialogue feel more real. Another voice that's weighed in on all this is Karen Molina White, who played a recurring role on the show. For her, Malcolm and Eddie was a mix of highs and lows. On one hand, it was a big platform and a major gig, but on the other, it came with a lot of challenges. Karen revealed that by the time season 3 rolled around, there was a big shift in direction. The producers wanted to shake things up by bringing in more white characters and sidelining some of the existing cast. She says they even tried to demote her.
Season 3, they wanted to change it up. They wanted to add some white guys. They wanted to...
Thankfully, at the time, she was dating Malcolm-Jamal Warner, and he wasn't having it. He pushed back hard, fighting for her to stay on the show. The network eventually agreed to keep her, but only after cutting down her number of episodes. Even then, she had to prove herself all over again, despite already being a solid part of the series.
I was dating Malcolm-Jamal Warner at the time, and he was like, I can't go home and tell my girlfriend she's fired. And then I had to kind of prove myself again that I was, worthy to be.
It was yet another example of how much politics and pushback were happening behind the scenes, especially for the black cast members. But despite all the behind-the-scenes drama, Malcolm and Eddie still managed to leave a mark. It never became a massive ratings juggernaut, but it found its audience, especially in the black community. Over time, it grew into one of those shows that earned a kind of cult following. For a lot of people, it was part of that late 90s era of black sitcoms that were funny, chaotic, and raw in their own way. So now hearing Eddie Griffin speak out on Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death with such a bold, suspicious tone definitely hits differently, especially when you consider the complicated history between the two. His comments stirred up a wave of mixed reactions. Some viewers felt like his words were a little off color, maybe even insensitive, especially so soon after Warner's passing. To them, it seemed like Eddie was jumping into conspiracy territory too quickly, and many thought the timing was just poor taste. But at the same time, there's a whole other group of people who are saying, hold up, maybe he's not wrong to question things. And that's where things start to get layered. Apparently, in the time leading up to his death, Malcolm had supposedly been speaking out more and more. He was reportedly vocal about being owed money, calling out issues in Hollywood, speaking on racism, and other things that don't always sit well with the industry. For some fans, this all feels a little too familiar, like yet another case where a public figure starts to become more outspoken, and then, almost like clockwork, tragedy strikes.
I am tired of running for shade. And aren't you tired of being hustled and played?
The official story of what happened is tragic. According to reports, Malcolm was swimming with his 8-year-old daughter off the coast of Costa Rica on a Sunday when things went horribly wrong. Surfers nearby spotted him and his daughter struggling in the water. One surfer reportedly used his board to get his daughter to safety, while a volunteer lifeguard helped bring Malcolm and another surfer to shore. Emergency responders performed CPR on Malcolm for 45 minutes, but sadly it wasn't enough.
say he accidentally drowned in the Caribbean Sea at this beach in Limon, Costa Rica. Warner and another man were swept away by a strong current, which is common in that area.
Later, Costa Rican authorities confirmed that an autopsy had been completed. The forensic pathology department stated that Malcolm's cause of death was asphyxiation due to submersion, essentially accidental drowning.
The official cause of death, asphyxiation by submersion.
Now, one of the reasons Eddie Griffin's comments are gaining traction is because of the noticeable inconsistencies in the details being reported. Initially, the authorities said Malcolm had been swimming with his daughter when they both got caught in the current. Surfers jumped in, helped bring them back, and the daughter didn't require further medical attention. That version was backed by Elberth Leon, chief of the tourist police in the region, who claimed to have responded to the scene himself. He insisted that the daughter was in the water and needed help, even though she wasn't seriously hurt. But then came a different version, one from Costa Rica's Judicial Investigation Agency, OIJ. Their report contradicted earlier accounts, stating that Malcolm's daughter was not in the water when the drowning occurred. According to them, Warner had been playing with his daughter at the shoreline, then left her out of the water to swim with a friend. That's when the current swept them both away. The friend managed to escape, but Warner didn't make it. Now, to be fair, conflicting stories like this aren't entirely unusual in the immediate aftermath of a tragedy. Witnesses remember things differently, first responders report from different perspectives, and the chaos of a rescue can blur timelines. Some people are saying exactly that we shouldn't automatically leap to conclusions. They argue that not every celebrity death has to be wrapped in conspiracy, and that based on the autopsy, the unfortunate truth is that Malcolm simply drowned. A tragic accident, nothing more. Still, for others, the shifting narratives and Malcolm's supposed outspokenness before his death are enough to raise eyebrows. They're not necessarily claiming foul play outright, but they're not brushing it off either. They say it's worth asking questions, especially when someone who's been pushing back against the system suddenly ends up gone. But what we do know for sure is that Malcolm-Jamal Warner's passing came as a huge shock, not just to the entertainment industry, but to fans around the world. Social media was flooded with tributes from fellow actors, celebrities, and everyday people who had grown up watching him and admired both his work and his voice. No matter where you stand on Eddie Griffin's take, one thing's for sure: Malcolm left a lasting legacy. From The Cosby Show to Malcolm and Eddie and beyond, he carved out a space in TV history. Rest in peace to a true icon.